And that's why this VST thing stings. Because we've been asking for stuff, we've been paying up for updates, and when we finally get it, it's behind a paywall. It just doesn't feel good. All right. So I'm sure by now you guys have seen the latest news regarding PreSonus and their subscription and Studio One 6.6 and all of that. And although I have already done an overview of all the changes, I wanted to make another video today to really just have a more like one-on-one discussion, a deeper dive into PreSonus Studio One and what's been happening, because as someone who's been using this software for years, I'm talking like since 2012, I have some thoughts. Okay, first things first, I think it might be beneficial for all of us to take a breather. I know in situations like this, humans, we're emotional, that's natural, that's normal, but we do tend to kind of veer off into the extremes of emotion, right? And yeah, we're angry, rightfully so, but we can't make the best decisions, we can't think straight if we are angry. So first things first, come here, let me give you a hug. Let's all take a breather. Now that we're a little bit more collected, let's talk about this in detail. First things first, I think it's very important to at least state or understand that developers are not responsible for this, right? And I say this because, as I've said many times here on the channel, I've had a relationship with PreSonus over the years, and I've been on calls with them, I've spoken to them via email, and a lot of times these developers, they're musicians also. You know, they care about the software and they care about making music. Obviously, everybody has a boss though. Especially with this Fender acquisition, I'm sure PreSonus developers, employees all have bigger bosses to answer to now, and I'm sure they also don't want to see their baby go down the drain. So I think it's important to first understand that. Now, before I get accused of anything, I was not coerced by PreSonus to say anything. As a matter of fact, I have not spoken to them since the release of my latest video, since the release of the update. Everything here is my thoughts, and that's incredibly important for me to express and for you to understand. This is one of the big reasons why I stopped doing sponsorships on the channel. When you come here, I want you to know and trust in me, because I'm giving you my honest, transparent opinion. So again, this is all my own thoughts and beliefs. Secondly, to address the common question that I've been getting on like social media and stuff, I'm not switching, at least not yet, and there's two reasons why. Number one is that, I don't know if you know, but aside from this YouTube stuff, I am a full-time working producer. And whenever you start to do this for a job, maybe you don't understand this if it's just a hobby, but whenever you do this for a job, and especially when you start working with artists, and especially when you start working with like higher artists, you can't go into the studio and waste time just figuring out a DAW. Like, that's just not something you do. I have a studio session this Friday, and there is no way that I could go in there and waste studio time just trying to figure out another DAW. I've been using Studio One for well over a decade. I know I like the back of my hand, and I can work quickly. So that is reason number one, just purely out of practicality. And then number two is that this thing is still developing. Granted, it doesn't look good, but I am one of those people, or at least I'm trying to be. As I get older, I'm trying to be more collected, more patient. But I want to at least let this unfold and see what's happening, get all the details. Maybe they backtrack just to kind of get a better picture. Because again, I don't want to make rash decisions. I want to get all the information first and then make my move. But okay, with that said, let's dive into this subscription thing, because especially if you're new and you haven't watched the other video, you're like, what the heck is happening? Studio One has been going subscription for a few years now. And as a matter of fact, this is not something new. A lot of companies are doing this. For the past couple of years, a lot of software companies are transitioning into this software as a service model, subscription model. And it's not just in the music industry, you have it in the gaming industry, EA with microtransactions, Fortnite, it's a big example, but also like Adobe, like all that stuff. Things are going towards subscription, whether we like it or not. Now, luckily with PreSonus, it is still not the end of times, because they still offer perpetual licenses, and it looks like they're going to continue to support that for the time being, so that is at least good. Now, personally me, I don't really have anything against subscriptions, but they have to be done right. And I think this, with the whole PreSonus and new virtual instrument fiasco, is a perfect example of what not to do. Because you can't create a new virtual instrument, something that people have been asking for a long time, and then only make it available to your special subscribers. Maybe it was well-intentioned, but what's happening is that in the end, you're alienating the people who have been long-time loyal customers, and you don't want to do that. There's not necessarily anything wrong with having a subscription, but it has to have such unique selling points that you entice people to join because it's that valuable. You don't want to alienate people who have paid you lots of money for years and years. That's my thought. There's nothing wrong with subscriptions, but you just have to do them right. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, well, what does it even matter? We all know that stock virtual instruments aren't even that good. You're using third-party stuff anyway. Yeah, whatever, but that's not the point. It's more about the principle. We've been asking for new production features for a really, really long time, and when it's finally available, it is behind a paywall. That just feels wrong. It feels like a huge uppercut to the chin, and I don't know, this to me is just inexcusable. Again, I understand they're trying to keep their subscription service alive, but this is not the way to do it. And in my mind, there are many ways you could have done this to make everyone happy. For example, you could have made the plugin free and made everybody who's been waiting for a new plugin happy, and then hired sound designers to make a bunch of expansion packs that are only available for Studio One Plus subscribers. That's one way. Another way you could have done it is you could have maybe, at the very least, made it available to subscribers first and then to everybody else. Or both. Why not both? As a matter of fact, I believe, what's the company called? Sonic Academy, I believe? Anna 2, the synth? You can still go and purchase Anna 2 for 80 bucks right now and, you know, get all the presets and whatever. But if you get it through the Slate All Access Pass, they do include a special bundle of more expansions. Like, the blueprint is out there. You just kind of have to, you know, look around, do your research, and get creative. At the end of the day, though, I think the reason everybody's upset is because the production community specifically, and I know this because I'm part of that community and I speak to a lot of you all the time, the production community Studio One has felt underserved for a really, really, really long time. Honestly, though, I think this actually segues perfectly into the bigger discussion, which is what music production is in 2024 and where these DAW companies are falling on that spectrum. I've had a few conversations with buddies who also use Studio One, and they're like, well, you know, Studio One is fine. It does everything that you have to do. And yes, I'm not disagreeing with you, but here's the thing, music production in 2024 is more than just recording audio and mixing. Recording and mixing is the bare minimum that any DAW should have. The reality, whether we want to accept it or not, music production nowadays in 2024 also includes a lot of beat production, a lot of virtual instruments, a lot of MIDI. That's just part of the game. You can't be a DAW in today's market and not be up to date with those sort of features. And that's what it's been feeling like being a Studio One user. And don't get me wrong, I love Studio One. And it works, yes, like I said, I use it every day to make music. I go into studio sessions and I pull this up and I make all the stuff that I need to make. But Studio One, production-wise, for the last couple of years, has felt like it's been lagging behind everybody else. And it sort of feels like you're that kid, you know, when you're young, you're that kid on the block, you're seeing all your friends get bounce houses and swing sets and all these cool different toys in their backyard, and you're still playing on the sandbox. You know what I mean? Like, it just makes you feel a certain kind of way. So honestly, I think that's part of the issue. There is a sub-market in the Studio One community, the electronic music production community, hip-hop, pop, whatever, that has been feeling underserved for a really, really long time. And that's why this VST thing stings. Because we've been asking for stuff, we've been paying up for updates, and when we finally get it, it's behind a paywall. It just doesn't feel good. Now, the other thing that people were kind of on the fence about is this new subscription model called Studio One Hybrid. And hear me out, because this I actually like. I am all about giving constructive criticism, but also about giving you your flowers whenever you deserve them. And if we do have to have subscriptions, which they seem like they're not going away anytime soon, this new hybrid model, as I said in the previous video, I don't think I've ever seen before, and I actually quite like it. But you have to do the math to realize what's happening here. Now, to give you a quick little recap if you don't know what I'm talking about, Studio One Plus Annual got scrapped and replaced with a new membership called Studio One Plus Hybrid. Now, the only difference is that at the end of the year, whenever your subscription ends, they cut you off from all the Studio One Plus benefits, but they award you a free, perpetual, non-updating license to Studio One at whatever version Studio One happens to be in. Now, that license copy is non-updating, meaning that it doesn't update, not even like the small point updates. And I think at first it seems a little like grimy and weird, but if you do the math, it actually makes sense. So hear me out. Let's say right now you purchased Studio One Plus Hybrid for $180. And for the first year, you get to enjoy everything that Studio One Plus offers, plus a updating version of Pro. At the end of the year, let's say you cancel and you get cut off from all the Studio One benefits, but they award you a non-updating perpetual license of, let's say, Studio One 7.5 if we're at that version in that moment in time. What that means is that you ended up getting a full license to Pro at less than half the cost of retail, because Pro costs $400. So you're getting it for $180, and you got a full year's worth of all the benefits of Studio One Plus. Now, it doesn't stop there, because they're also giving you the option to pay a fee to transition this non-updating perpetual license to an updating license. It's called a Pro to Pro upgrade, and it costs $150. So if at the end of that year, you pay the $150 to upgrade it, you're basically back to a regular updating perpetual license, and your total cost of ownership was $330. Now again, remember that a full retail price for Pro is $399, so you are essentially getting Studio One Pro updating for $69 less than you would have if you just bought the perpetual license outright, and you still got a full year of Studio One Plus included. Again, I am not the biggest fan of subscriptions, but this to me is genius. Now, obviously, PreSonus still has to get their stuff together with the subscription stuff and make sure that the production community is served. But if we're going to have subscriptions, I don't think this is half bad. I think this is actually a pretty good deal for people. But again, you just have to do your due diligence and make sure that everybody's happy, including the people who've been paying for the software for so long. Anyway, that's it for me, y'all. I just wanted to kind of get this off my chest because I've been a long-time user who has supported PreSonus and Studio One, and I don't want to see this DAW go down the drain. Ultimately though, I'm just one member of the community. Obviously there's a bunch of you guys, so I want to hear from you. Do you think you're going to be sticking with Studio One? Are you really switching? Give me your thoughts down below. Let's start a conversation. I'll see you very soon, but if you haven't seen it yet, for your convenience, I'll list the new 6.6 update video that I did right over here.